Hey, welcome. I'm Dr. Lon Schiffbauer, and this is Fundamentals of Interpersonal Communication. At its core, interpersonal communication is the exchange of information, ideas, thoughts, and feelings between two or more individuals using speech, writing, imagery, body language, and other forms of communication. Okay, so there's your academic definition of communication. But right away, we start to see the difficulty in communicating. I mean, what did any of what I just said really mean? Well, that's what we're going to explore in this series, because really, interpersonal communication is about so much more than the simple exchange of information. It's about human connection, and human connection is at the core of everything we do. Whether as a friend, family member, employee, manager, or citizen, every aspect of our lives is rooted in our ability to communicate with one another. You know what? As strongly worded as that was, it wasn't strong enough. So let me try again. Communication is the most powerful force ever wielded by humankind. More powerful than physics, more powerful than chemistry, more powerful than technology. Communication beats them all. This is because it's communication that converts thoughts and ideas into everything that we are as a species. Whether we're talking about religion, philosophy, government, revolution, industry, science, or even war, repression, and genocide, all of these human activities, good and bad, derive their power from our ability to communicate. Here, check this out. This is a human brain. I'm not going to tell you where I got it, but trust me, he had it coming. Anyway, inside the brain are billions of specialized cells called neurons. When a neuron becomes active, it generates a small electrical signal that travels down a long fiber called the axon. When this signal reaches the end of the axon, this triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters then jump between the tiny gap between neurons called the synapse. When vast networks of neurons in different regions activate together in complex patterns, we experience, well, thoughts and ideas. Okay, so I get it. This was a bunch of biological gobbledygook. So let me show you what I mean. Let's see if we can generate some thoughts and ideas. As you can see, an idea is nothing more than a chemical reaction inside of a 3-pound organ. Take away these chemical electrical signals, and the brain is reduced to nothing more than 3 pounds of squishy ook. And what is it that enables us to transfer this chemical reaction from one 3-pound squishy organ to another? That's right, communication. For example, imagine Bela Lugosi dancing at a rave wearing his, Dracula wardrobe. Can you see it? Yeah, close your eyes. Can you see that? I'm sure you can, but just because I want to glory in the image for a moment. Now, I'm willing to bet that this is an image you've never thought of before, and yet, there it is, all because I spoke a few words. Then again, maybe you have. Bauhaus has this awesome kick-ass song called Bela Lugosi is Dead, and they play the song at a rave at the beginning of the movie The Hunger, a fantastic erotic horror movie starring Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie, and Susan Sarandon. You gotta get a hold of that one. Anyway, think about it. Communication gives us the power to influence the chemical reactions in the brains of others, put our thoughts in their heads. This is a very intimate act. I don't think we appreciate how intimate this can really be. And, in fact, in the wrong circumstances, it can be horribly violating. This is the power of communication. Now, just a moment ago, I said that I put these words in your head by speaking a few words, but that's not entirely correct. After all, what's a word? Let me show you something. So, what's this? Maybe you say it's a house, and yeah, that kind of makes sense. It sort of looks like a house, but I say, no, it's not a house, so try again. So then you're like, okay, well, maybe it's some sort of old school robot, like something you'd see in a B movie. Again, I kind of see your point, but I say, no, it's not an old school robot. Try again. This time you say it's a rocket ship blasting off into space or whatever. And once again, I say, no, it's not a rocket ship. So at this point, you're pretty frustrated. So you're like, fine. You tell me what it is. And I say, well, obviously, it's ink on a whiteboard. Now, you might just think that I'm being a pedantic ass, but I'm really not. Okay, maybe just a little. We're hardwired to see meaning in symbols. Consider all the ways that we communicate. Writing is just a bunch of squiggles. Speech is nothing more than a bunch of grunts created as we expel air from our lungs and contract our vocal cords and so forth. Facial expressions and body language, this is just muscular contractions. Communication is nothing more than a bunch of squiggles, grunts, and body movements imbued with meaning. In other words, we're not communicating ideas. We are communicating symbols imbued with ideas. So when I said, imagine Bela Lugosi dancing at a rave in his Dracula garb, by the way, do you know that Bela Lugosi was buried in his Dracula costume? I mean, albeit a replica, but still, well, that's pretty hardcore. All I did was make a series of grunts that somehow or another we decided would convey this idea, that would put this image in your head. That's why when I drew on the whiteboard, you saw a house instead of ink. We've learned that ink applied to a surface in this fashion represents a house, a symbol with imbued meaning. Thing is, what something may mean to one person may not mean the same thing to another. In fact, there's no chance at all that it'll mean the same thing. Take the swastika, for example. The word swastika and its accompanying image comes from Sanskrit and means good fortune or well-being. To a follower of Hinduism, Buddhism, or Jainism, it's considered a sacred symbol, while those in the West, well, to us, it has a decidedly more ominous meaning. Or consider words such as, liberal, conservative, patriotic, or woke. Words like these are loaded with far more meaning than what you'll find in the dictionary definition. Then there are words that I contend we hear and use on a regular basis, but couldn't define if our lives depended on it. Words like ethical, strategic, and leadership. Go ahead, Google the word ethical and see what it means. I'd be willing to bet that when you read the definition, you'd say, well, that's not what it means to me. And that's okay. The dictionary doesn't get to decide what a word means. We do. We decide the ideas that are imbued in that word. So, bringing this back to interpersonal communication, all of this together makes communication black magic at best. Let me show you what I mean. Meet Olivia and Theo, two folks engaged in a conversation. Now, in this example, let's say that Olivia is the sender and Theo is the receiver of the communication. Now, in practice, we all send and receive messages simultaneously and in parallel, but in this example, we'll isolate the two roles so we can examine them independently. Now, Olivia has a concept she wants to communicate, a pure thought, one unencumbered by the restrictions of language. But to communicate this idea, Olivia first needs to encode it, which is to say she needs to conceptualize her thought into a message. To do this, she has to run them through her filters. Filters that guide and direct how she sees the world and her place in it. Now, these filters, she's been developing them since the day she was born. They include how she was raised, the culture in which she grew up, the experiences that forged her perception of the world. All these things affect the way that she conceptualizes her thoughts and the way that she encodes these thoughts into symbols that she can communicate, just like I'm doing right now. Now, as Olivia encodes her thoughts through her worldview and crafts them into symbols, into communications, they leave her control and enter that weird liminal space between Olivia and Theo. After all, a spoken word has to leave her lips and has to enter Theo's ear. There's a space between her lips and his ear. I mean, not always. Okay, sorry. Now, as it traverses this liminal space, it has to pass through all manner of noise. Some of this noise is, well, actual noise, sound bouncing around, making it difficult to hear what each person is saying. Noise can also be, say, the time of day. If it's late and they're both tired, this is going to affect how the message is encoded and received. Noise can also include other people around. Is there somebody else in the room doing something annoying and distracting them? Or the person doesn't even need to be in the room. Maybe they keep getting text messages that pull them away from the conversation. Noise can also be psychological in nature. Maybe the way that Olivia is speaking, her tone, or the fact that she's giving Theo an order that he doesn't like. This introduces bias and prejudice into the mix. All of this noise, this and much more, it really muddies the message. But eventually the message does pass through this liminal space and Theo receives it. And just as Olivia had encoded her thoughts into symbols through her filters, Theo has to decode the symbols into thoughts through his own filters, essentially trying to reconstruct Olivia's thoughts and ideas in his own head. Now, what are the odds that Theo's reconstructed thoughts will match those of Olivia? The chances are nil. Truth is, the thoughts became corrupted the moment they went through Olivia's filters. She chose the squiggles, sounds, intonations, facial expressions, gestures, and images based on her own worldview. A worldview that's completely unique to her. Add to this all the noise in the environment and Theo's own filters, his own worldview, a worldview that's completely unique to him, and we've removed any chance whatsoever that the thoughts will match up. And then, of course, Theo responds. He goes ahead and encodes his own thoughts into squiggles and grunts and so on and so forth, and sends them across the liminal space through all the noise to Olivia, and the cycle goes on. And each time the communication and the ideas and the thoughts, they continue to grow and expand and contract. They are never static because they're always going through all of these filters. Still, this is what it means to communicate. I mean, is it any wonder we misunderstand each other? Hell, I can hardly understand myself half the time, let alone others. In this course, we're going to go deep into many of the aspects and functions of internal communication, and in so doing, increase our ability to communicate effectively with those around us, whether that be at home, school, work, play, or as a fellow citizen. So I hope you'll join me and let's have some fun. All right, that's all I've got for now. Now go off and make some trouble and we'll talk again soon. So when I said in his Dracula garb, all I did,